All right, welcome back to part three of the marketing triangle. I'm Diane Conklin with CompleteMarketingSystems.com, and today, part three, we're going to talk about media. So that will complete the third part of the triangle. And just as a refresher, again, I want to just give you my definition of marketing. Again, is everything you do to put yourself in a position to sell something to a new or existing client. And that's really what we're talking about. This marketing triangle are the things that you're going to do to put yourself in the position to sell somebody something, either a new or existing client, and then it's everything that you do when you try to sell them the subsequent time or times. So again, just a refresher. Here's the marketing triangle again. Last week we talked about message. The week before we talked about market. Today we're going to complete the triangle and we're going to talk about media. Again, remember, the arrows go both ways. So all three of these have to match up. And next week we're going to talk about that specific thing, how they match up, what happens if they don't, how this really, I'm going to put it all together for you next week in week 4. But today I want to talk about media. So, most of us probably default to thinking about social media because it's so prevalent today. But I really want you to expand your horizons when we talk about the media. Now, again, the media is about going where your people are, putting your message where your market is. That's what the media is about, okay? So, are they on social media? And if they are on social media, which one or ones, right? Which platforms? One platform, multiple platforms, right? There's a lot of them now. Used to be that it was just sort of the big three were Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Some have come and gone. Are they on YouTube? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Pinterest? Again, depends on your market. So knowing your market, which is where we started, this is another reason why it's so critical. Last week we talked about how you talk to the market, right? What to say to them, how to say it to them. Now we're talking about where to go to say the message to the market and where the market is, right? So they may or may not be on social media, depending upon the age, depending upon the interest level. I have some clients who are in more of an artistic kind of range. Their people are on Pinterest. Not Instagram is a very visual media, and so if you have things that are visual or can make things about your business visual, it's another really good place. Tends to be a little bit of a younger crowd. So the social media is the easy one that we automatically think of, right? But there are other ways to think about media. We're going to talk about some of those, right? So, it could be that you're doing video. It could be that you have video on a lot of different places, right? Not just social media. Could be that you're doing a podcast or that you're being interviewed on radio shows or that you're advertising on the radio, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Don't just think online. Don't just think of the ways that we traditionally think of media in today's market. What are other things? A lot of different media that you can get involved with. So, for example, newspaper. I know most people don't think of the newspaper anymore because who gets the newspaper? Well, maybe your client base does. Again, it tends to be a little bit of an older population, but it's a very viable media. I'll give you a really quick example. For the last probably 6 or 8 weeks, there's been a half-page ad. I get the newspaper on Sunday. I like looking through the ads, and I like having one day a week that I actually sit down and read the paper. I don't read it all the way through, but I have certain things I like to look at on Sundays. There's been a half-page ad. This is the other reason I get it, because I like to know what's going on in that media. Full color, half-page ad for educational seminars at restaurants here. And I believe it's the same company putting them on. Now, that kind of newspaper ad is expensive. I haven't priced this in a while, but my guess is it probably costs them somewhere between 12, 15, maybe as high as $20,000 for the distribution in a major metropolitan newspaper like that, half page, full color ad. So that's not what I'm talking about for us, right? For us, it would be more like, are there local papers? Are there business journals in your area? Um, local papers sometimes have a great read and distribution. Even, although we poo-poo them, even the ones that end up free on the end of your driveway, many times get great readership. So you should check into some of those. Much, much lower cost, by the way. The other thing is, business newspapers or magazines, if you're in a particular niche or subculture, do they have a newspaper that gets published, even if they're the free ones that you have to go somewhere to pick up, kind of thing. Check out newspaper. It's not always expensive. It's a great media, depending again upon your market, who your market is, and what the best way to reach them is from a message perspective. Again, radio. Sometimes you don't think about this, but drive time radio, talk radio tends to be a great way to get access. Again, depending upon who the client is, with the right message, you can do some really great things. Again, all of these media have to have a return on investment. That makes absolutely no sense, even to be in social media, right? If you're not getting a ROI. So if you're running Facebook or Twitter or Instagram ads, if you're doing things on Pinterest, even if you're not investing money, right, and doing ads, if you're investing your time in social media, it needs to have a return on investment. That's why you're doing this. It's marketing. And if the marketing isn't working, then you should look at something else. And sometimes having that investment and actually, putting money out makes the media work in a different way, partially because you're a little bit more specific about it. You're a little bit more careful in your messaging when you're actually having to pay up front for something. Here's another thing, TV. Again, a lot of people will say, well, Diane, that's really expensive. It's not always really expensive. There's a couple things that you should check out from a media perspective. One would be local, like programming in your area, right? Local cable channels, very affordable, tend to be, and it would be a great test for some people. And they have great demographic information. So if you know your demographic, you know who your market is, and you've got that honed down, you can match that sometimes to local media channels, local TV channels in your area. Here's the other thing to know. I had a client who did this very, very effectively in a relatively large area that he was in. He did commercials. Here's the cool thing about working with TV is you go to their studio to shoot the commercials, and they're professionally done. You don't have to pay extra for that. It's included in your package. But for a relatively low amount, he was doing TV commercials during the news times. Just in his local, it was a CBS affiliate, just in his local CBS affiliate. And he did that because he knew his demographic watched the news. And so he did his commercials related to, he did it both in the morning. He did, because you've got, business people who are watching it at noon time, because he did have people in his market who watch the noon time, not as much on the noon, but the morning and then the evening. Because what do we know? People who are going to watch the news tend to watch it live. They don't DVR through and fast forward through commercials, because that's the other thing that you have to be careful of in today's market with TV. So just a few of the media that you could be looking at. Certainly we didn't talk about some, direct mail and some different things. I just really wanted to give you, again, some different ideas. But again, here's the thing that I really want you to get is, notice that in today's conversation about media, I talked about all three. I talked about how important the market is. I talked about the messaging, and I talked about media. Again, I have the arrows covered up in this one because I wanted to show that we've completed all three of those. But again, all of these have arrows pointing back and forth to one another. This is critical that you understand. All three of these have to match: the market, the message, and the media. When you get those three things right, it's amazing what will happen in your marketing. And if you did nothing but concentrate on those three things inside of your marketing for the rest of this year, I will pretty much guarantee that you would see an increase in your profits and in your income when those three things match up. Because you'll probably find, if you spend an hour on each of these, you'll probably find that somewhere there's a little bit of a disconnect. If you're not getting your message out, if you're not making as much money, if you don't feel like you're bringing in new clients at the speed that you want to bring them in at, you may find there's a bit of a disconnect, or that all three of them aren't working together. And that's what we'll talk about next week, is how these work together, what happens if they don't work together, and some ways that you can make sure to have success in your marketing. So that completes the 3 segments on the marketing triangle. Again, if you still need the target market checklist, send me an email at info@completemarketingsystems.com. I'll send that out to you. If you have questions about any of that, same thing, shoot me an email. I'd love to help you or talk to you about how you can incorporate this a little better in your own business potentially. And again, next week we'll be talking about how to tie this in a little bit more, some of the issues and challenges that sometimes come up when you start to put this in place. I hope you got a ton out of this series. Again, we have one more left, but I hope you got some great and useful information about this or related to this, because it really can change the face of your business. And we just touched on it on the surface. I could spend an entire day talking about nothing but this piece. So let me know if you have questions. Again, I'm Diane Conklin with Complete Marketing Systems, and I hope that the marketing triangle will change how you do business. Until next time, take care, take it easy, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.